May I, at the outset, request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Vinod Kumar Jain, to hoist the university flag. The assembled guests to proceed towards the venue, Dean's Gallery, School of Engineering, for the rest of the proceedings. Request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Vinod Kumar Jain, to deliver the welcome address.
Very good morning to each one of you. Professor Gautam Baruah, Director, IIIT, Guwahati. My colleague in the administration, Professor Satya. All the deans, Professor Sinha, I can see, Dr. Baruah, the Dean of Academic Affairs, the Dean of Students, the Chief Proctor, and all the distinguished professors, associate professors, assistant professors, administrative staff, and the non-teaching staff. My very warm greetings to all of you on this occasion of 28th Foundation Day of our university. Most of you are familiar with the background as to how this university came into being. Way back in 93 through an act of parliament and through Assam Accord. As a result of Assam Accord, this university was established. With a very modest start, some 3 departments, having 57 students, this university began its illustrious journey. And over the next 26 odd years, we have a very, very vibrant university, which is known for its teaching learning as well as for its research and innovation. It has acquired a certain reputation, which is quite appreciable for a university which is not all that big in terms of the numbers. But as of now, we have something like 4,400 students on rolls in 26 departments now, under 4 schools. In addition, we do have centers where research is being carried out. We have also this year thought of starting a multidisciplinary research center, and this would be aligned with the mandate of the newly announced new education policy. And so hopefully this center would be functioning pretty soon from this academic session. As far as the achievements of the university are concerned, if you look at the edge index of the university, which is quite heartening, that the Web of Science index is, I think, 79, and Scopus is 85. So for a university which is only, 26 years old, is a fairly good index, and that reflects the considerable research output of this university. In addition, I would also single out a few other very sort of positive developments. One is to do with the Center of Excellence, which has been recently given to the Department of Environmental Sciences under this National Mission on Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem, that is NMSHE, and this is one of the flagship missions of Government of India to combat the climate change. So this is a very good recognition, and it's a very generous funding of some 6 crores over a period of 5 years. Another very significant achievement is the identification of our FET department, Food Engineering and Technology Department, as a state-level technical institute, and this has been recognized by both Assam government and Meghalaya government for any projects or implementation of the projects which will be under the PM's food processing scheme in the country. So this is also a very good achievement. My congratulations to the faculty of both environmental sciences and the food and engineering and technology department. Another very heartening achievement is that from Department of Cultural Studies. There is one module which has been developed under the leadership of Professor D.P. Nath, and that is to do with the folklore, using folklore as a medium of training in the some 33 districts of Assam and close to some 4,000 or 3,000 schools. So that is also a very good achievement in the sense that our Department of Cultural Studies is contributing to that Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan of the Government of India. So these 3 developments, to my mind, are quite significant. And of course, over the years, university has achieved many recognitions. But this year, we slipped somewhat, and I think there is a cause for concern as far as our ranking in NIRF is concerned. Although we continue to be the best ranked university in the entire northeastern region, but that's no solace. If we are slipping somewhat in the rankings, then I think this is something to reflect upon as to what are the deficiencies and where the improvement is required. I would take this opportunity to sort of put in a word of my sincere appreciation for the faculty here, who in a very short time got adjusted to the new modes of pedagogy. I think our university was probably the only university in the entire country which adhered to the timelines prescribed in our academic calendar, and we declared the results well in time. So I think all of you deserve huge appreciation for this. But the challenges before us remain, and as I said, we have to do introspection, and we have to do some course correction, and it is in this direction that we did take some initiatives. My colleagues in the administration, Professor Kia and Professor Bhattacharya, we all sat together and along with the deans, PVC did have some consultations with the deans, and we this time we enhanced the quantum of funding assigned for innovation and research. We nearly doubled it. Last year it was 50 lakhs, this year we made it 1 crore. And quite a few very interesting projects have been submitted, and the list of all those, the projects which have been chosen, this must be on our website. And I hope that some very interesting, innovative research will be carried out, some with the potential to develop some products. So this is something I think which we should take advantage of. There is enough funding available, and I would really appeal to all the young faculty members that make use of these funds, and along with your students, try out your ideas. You may not succeed in what you intend to finally want to get out of those projects, but make an effort and let us see how it goes. But I want this university to be known for its innovation. There are some success stories, there have been, but these have been far and few between. In the past, we have developed some products which are of problem-solving nature, but a lot more remains to be done. And without taking too much time, I'd just like to dwell upon a bit on NEP. From now on, we will have to sort of align our course curricula as well as pedagogy aligned with the provisions which are there in the NEP, and as the government comes out with the guidelines for the implementation, because there are some serious discussions, deliberations at the government end, and once we get those guidelines, we will have to implement them. But there are some things which we have discussed and which could be implemented right away. And to my mind, there was something which I would like to share with you. We perhaps could go along with the 4-year BSc or BA, wherein in the 4th year you do research. So it could be a degree, 4-year research degree, 4-year bachelor's degree by research. Similarly, we could have a 1-year master's by research. This is something which our university would be in a position to implement soon enough. And there are other provisions which we are in the NEP, which we are seriously looking at, and without the compulsion of additional resources, both in terms of funding as well as the manpower, we will see what best can we do to implement those provisions. So this is all what I have to say, and but before I end, I must thank all the well-wishers of this university, all the academic council members, the executive council, or the board of management members, for having guided the university from time to time thus far. And finally, in this inclement weather, I must say this with all sincerity. I think the organizing committee deserves a huge applause for organizing this function in a meticulous manner. So thank you all, and once again, my greetings to all of you. Thank you.
May I again request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to felicitate our distinguished guest, Professor Gautam Baruah, with a horai, fulam gamusa, seleng, and a sapling. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce our distinguished guest, Professor Gautam Baruah, to you. Professor Baruah is the director of the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Guwahati, and a professor of computer science and engineering. He had earlier served as the director of IIIT Guwahati from 2003 to 2013. Professor Baruah started his career at IIT Kanpur in 1982 and moved to IIT Guwahati in 1995. Graduating from IIT Bombay with BTech and MTech degrees in electrical engineering, Professor Baruah completed his PhD in computer engineering from the University of California, Santa Barbara in 1981. His areas of interest are operating systems and networks. Professor Baruah has been in the governing boards of NERIST Itanagar, NIT Silchar, NIT Meghalaya, IIM Shillong, NEHO Shillong, CIT Kokrajhar, Sikkim University and Manipur University. He was the Chairman Board of Management in NERIST and also the Chairman Board of Governors in NIT Silchar and CIT Kokrajhar. He was also the Director in charge of NIT Silchar for 2.5 years and Mentor Director of IIT Patna for a year. Professor Baruah has also been a member in the boards of LIC, Indian Oil, Oil India, NESFB and IIB. He is also an IT consultant to the Government of Assam and to a number of public sector undertakings. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to request Professor Gautam Baruah to deliver the 28th Foundation Day oration of Tezpur University.
Mr. Jain, Deans of the University, faculty, ladies and gentlemen, and friends. First of all, let me thank the organizers for inviting me to this function. This is the first time I am moving out of Guwahati since March 8th, 2020. So it gave me a chance to come out of the city. You know, the pandemic has been such that we were so afraid of going anywhere. And the first time I crossed Jagi Road. Well, I had gone up to Jagi Road for a picnic. so that's, thank you very much. And of course, I have a long association with Tezpur University. And so whenever you call me, if I'm able to, I definitely come. And so let me just briefly, therefore, start off by reminiscing a little. As you can see that the Tezpur University started just a few years before IIT Guwahati, and I came to Guwahati in 95. And from this I can make out 93 or 94, I think, 93, right? The Tezpur University formally started. But actually, things got going only in 95 onwards, I think. After I joined, very soon, Professor Pathak, first Vice Chancellor, got hold of me to help out in computer purchases. And so I am very glad to have been involved in the first computer lab set up in Law College premises in the city. That's where the university started. And in those first few years, 96, 97, I used to visit very frequently. And if I'm not mistaken, the first short-term course of the university, I don't think it was not the degree course, it was in that computer lab. So I keep those memories very fondly with me. That time, of course, I was also involved in setting up IIIT Guwahati infrastructure. So it was doing the same thing in two places, it made it easier. And that also reminds me, so many of you I know, but I particularly remember because the Vice Chancellor Kishore Kumar Pathak, we had very close contacts with, and along with him all the time was a very young Biren Das, your registrar. So I remember Biren Das as a young man, maybe a boy I would say almost, at that time, and so enthusiastic, and his dedication to the university is for all of you to see. And that is, I suppose, to be said for many of you who have joined from the beginning. One of my PhD students is a dean here today. He worked with me while I was at IIT. And we have had many interactions. I have come and taken part in computer science related workshops, syllabus, forming, MTech vivas. In the earlier days there was more interaction. Later on, I also I became a director of the institute, so not enough time to come. Nevertheless, Tezpur University has a special place in my sphere, and as you have heard, I have been involved in many Northeast institutes, most of the central institutes actually in the Northeast, Neris, Silchar, Kokrajhar, and actually even Nehu, not as a board member, but as so many other ways. I am Shillong. So it has given me, I have been very fortunate, maybe because I was in IIT, very fortunate to be able to interact with all these institutions over the years, last 25 odd years. And things have moved so much since we started in the early 90s, when Tezpur University and IIT Guwahati was set up. The education sector has expanded all over the country, of course, but particularly in the Northeast and particularly in the central sector. As you know, now every state has an NIT and a central university, however big or small the state may be. And so there are such a large number of central universities in the entire Northeast. Its concentration is high. And this expansion has come about not only with government support, but with us people getting involved. We the academics, whether we are here in Tezpur or in IIT or elsewhere or Nehu, some of the older institutes have played a role in setting up the newer institutes, and that's how it should be. Tezpur University, I know, has been involved in, for example, Neris, I know very well. I'm sure in so many other places also it must have. Its faculty would have gone there, maybe some senior faculty has gone and become a director. That has happened, And so it's actually, we all grew up together as a family, and I'm very proud to be a big part of this growth. And the issue today before us is, of course, that we have to sustain this growth and the degree of excellence that has been achieved. We have to maintain that, and we have to go further. Because as you know, there is no we have done it. We can never have done it. We will always have to do better. And we have to keep striving to do better as we go forward. And that is what the lesson we have learned over the years, and that's what we must carry forward. And the senior among us have to show the way by example to the younger faculty. And since there is so much expansion, the younger numbers are much larger, and so I am at least kind of passing on the baton to the next generation, so to speak. So I want to briefly, highlight some of the things that we have been doing, Tezpur University, IIT Guwahati, others, and that to remind ourselves what are the things that we did that made these institutes do well, and so what therefore a pointer to what we should continue to doing and what we should do better. So one of course is that we have to maintain quality and set standards for teaching. After all, we are all teaching institutes. The first requirement is teaching. And creating the right environment of teaching is the most important thing to begin with. Because once the environment is set, then things, through peer pressure, through talking with each other, we kind of have to fall in line with whatever standards have been set. So some of the things that you can say, that teaching is very important. So taking classes is very, very important. So if I miss a class, I must ensure that I do a make-up class. I don't, bunk classes. The students bunk classes, teachers don't bunk classes, right? And so once that is there, then the students will also stop bunking classes. So, and that is the first message I like to give to younger faculty when they come in, that this is it. Taking your class on time, every class is the most important thing for you. Of course, you will miss some classes because you have to go somewhere, you have to go for a research program, you have to make up the class. And once this system sets in place, and that's what has happened in Tezpur, in Guwahati, IIT, and other places also now, the environment becomes better of teaching. And once the teaching environment is set, that's why you see Tezpur University has given the exams results on time. Why has it done so? Because it takes teaching so seriously. And that is what we must remember, we must continue to hold on to. Obviously, along with this teaching, the evaluation is also important. Transparent evaluation, making the students feel that their evaluation is being done fairly is also important. And here, of course, I'd like to mention that being a unitary university or a self-contained institute like IIT helps, because we as a teacher teaching the class, we have full independence in setting the exam. The affiliating system has got a lot of difficulties here, faces a lot of difficulties, and therefore I understand why getting the teaching environment proper in an affiliating university is so difficult. And of course the colleges, it's even more difficult because the teacher is teaching something and the students know that the paper setters are someone else. And so it's very, very difficult to keep the students in class, in college. And of course, as you know, the NEP is talking about moving away from this affiliating system. And as people have mentioned, the British brought it in, and everyone, including the British, have dropped it, and we in India are the only ones continuing with the affiliating system. And that's going to go, of course, going to take time. It's can't suddenly change. We have to make all these colleges come up to speed, and it's going to take a while. And it's a bold step, and it's a bold step in the right direction. Of course, the other part of our job in a university institute is research, and that is equally important actually, particularly for the faculty's progress, for their faculty's well-being. If you are only a teacher, you can be an excellent teacher, but then you will get bored after some time. Then you will teach another course maybe, but even then there is a limit. So you have to be in research from day one, and that's what the institutes, the universities emphasize. And doing research of various kinds, of course, but doing research is very, very important. And in fact, our teaching is dependent, quality of our teaching is dependent on whether we are active in research or not. Of course, it works the other way also. Sometimes, I want to get into a new area or, related area, I want to do some research. The best way to get into the area is to teach the course in in that area. And then you got to read the books and you got to do the stuff that you did not felt lazy to do, because the students on the other side are going to ask you searching questions. So anyway, so both of them work hand in hand, and both are equally important. As far as research is concerned, institutes pay a lot of attention on the number of research scholars or PhD students. Unless there is a vibrant PhD program in an institute, the research program will not prosper, will not do well. Because you and I know, as a faculty, we have limited time and we need the younger minds, PhD students, to help us out. They of course also learn, but we also get our ideas put into practice through them. And we need full-time PhD students who are getting scholarships to do the program. And I know this university has very large number. I was told 900 or so PhD students are there. So that's what it is all about. Okay, that's what has to happen, and it has to be full-time students. Many universities I have seen have a large number of PhD students, but 70% of them are part-timers, basically college teachers who want to do their PhD to get further in their careers. Those PhD students, well, they can do a lot of good work, but they are not in the institute, not with you. So the kind of work that can be done is by its very nature limited. And so unless we have full-time PhD students, our research program is not going to be vibrant. And of course there are challenges in that. Getting money to support these students is becoming challenging as we go forward. And because of course one of the reasons is because the number of PhD students are increasing all over the country. All universities are increasing the number of PhD students, and getting support, financial support, is becoming a little challenging. So the NET, for example, NET fellowship, there are a limited number of fellowships available, and that number is not growing at the same rate at which PhD students in the country are growing. Of course, NET is mainly for the science, social science and humanities. Same thing can be said about the JRF from CSIR. So then there is a non-net fellowship. The UGC has given some partial amount of money for so-called non-net fellowships. And some of the universities have taken big advantage of this non-net, so that at least the students get something, some support. I'm talking about non-net because I was in a committee formed to look into the non-net fellowship issue. Because if you remember, about 5-6 years ago, there was some halla-gulla in JNU and elsewhere, where else but in JNU, about the non-net fellowship. There was some restrictions being imposed because of financial crunch, and there was a lot of protest. So anyway, that thing is still going on. I mean, in the sense that the non-net fellowship issue, our committee had recommended that we should give more money and there should be more such fellowships. Of course, it's easy for committees to say those things. I don't know about the government. The government is that way, has a different way of working now, because government wants us to be more autonomous, even financially, and we have to find money on our own, which in some sense is a good thing. It makes our work harder. Earlier, during the boom periods, early 2000, 21st century, all our universities, actually we got a little spoiled. There's too much money available, and I mean, you could say that there was actually too much money available, and we became lazy. But things has corrected now, but maybe it's been overcorrected, and we are, those of us in administration, hope government releases more and more money. Now even infrastructure development is coming through loans. As you know, there's something called HEFA, and making us earn more revenue to pay off the interest or the principal of those loans. So this kind of getting PhD students is very important. But the research, the PhD student is all right, but the quality of the PhD research also must be maintained. Just like I talk about the classroom, this is also very, very important. And the way the PhD theses are evaluated, how it's sent outside, getting evaluated by outside parties, by peers, in a transparent manner, in a strictly transparent manner, without any favoritism or, being shown, is very important. Because if we, just play by the rule and say, okay, I need 3 external examiners, so let the guide suggest 6 names, and the VC will pick up 3. But then, the guide soon starts, it happens automatically. The student is not so good, the PhD thesis is tik-tak. So who should I, so let me call my friends, from Dibrugarh, from here and there, as experts. They will pass him or her. And that happens for one student, because the student is weak. But then slowly, it eats into the system, and all PhDs slowly become, the quality goes down, because this is the way they are being evaluated. We must be very, very careful that that does not happen. Okay? We must ensure that the examiners for the thesis is not anyone who has worked with the supervisor or is a colleague or have got common papers, and we must have some criteria to ensure so-called arm's length. Arm's length is required for the evaluator. So these are small things, but this makes the difference. This sets the quality of the system, of the process. I am so sorry to have seen, in some universities, so many PhDs are coming out, but most of the PhDs have got titles like studies of a particular community in a particular season of a particular activity. Now, this is not research. This is data collection. You're studying what this community does in winter, in this particular activity. So what? What is your hypothesis? What is the conclusion? This is not a PhD, right? This is not research. This is the pre-research. This is data collection. Unfortunately, these are becoming the PhD thesis, particularly in the social sciences and humanities, where these studies are becoming so popular. I sometimes feel very sorry, because that it's going to hurt not only the university but also the community, because these people who have got the PhD, they haven't really learned how to do research. Anyway, so that's something we have to guard against, is what I want to emphasize here. And there are so many things, so many fertile areas of research. The Vice Chancellor has mentioned some of the things that have been done here in cultural studies. There are so many languages, so many communities, so much of history is not known. There's so much diversity in flora, fauna, geography, all of which requires analysis, research, finding out also, what happened, when, and therefore from that we can see why things are how it is today. There's lots of work to be done actually in the Northeast. There is work being done, but where are the experts in Berkeley? I was astounded to find, that certain language, the foremost linguist is in Berkeley. It's in Berkeley. No, that's not on. That's not how it should be. It should have been in Guwahati University or Tezpur University, right? I don't want to go into particulars. So that's what also we have to be aware of so much research that we can do here. And that gets me to this other point, that today research output is being sought to be quantified. To some extent it is good, but there are dangers there too. And I feel that this new game of getting better rankings, while it helps us to do things, but it can also take us in the wrong direction. So, and then, for example, this NIRF ranking the Vice Chancellor was talking about, the rankings are based on parameters that have been decided by some committee, and those certain parameters may not be in favor of our particular university. So we have to do our own analysis also. Yes, and just the ranking itself, unfortunately, in the world, in the branding, the ranking is what people will look at. Or, at a undergraduate level, they will look at placement. As if placement and ranking are what decides whether the institute is good or bad. It's not that really, there's so much more complexity. So, if we focus on ranking and, citation only, then our research will tend to become so-called global only. Global means high quality journal publication, which in turn implies that most of the people will be, the emphasis will be on mostly theoretical work. Because that is what's likely to get published. Doing significant experimental work with limited resources is very difficult. So we will end up doing theoretical work in our areas in a small niche, which some your peers will read, it will be published in a good journal, but how much satisfaction are you going to get? How much is going to help the society at large? We have to think about those things also. So we must do this kind of research, we must do global research, because after all, knowledge knows no boundaries, knowledge knows no nation. But at the same time, we must also do experimental research, multidisciplinary work, and to do experimental work, to do work which is relevant for the society, sometimes does not have enough rewards. You don't get a publication, you don't get recognition. But then if we can take these experimental works to a little bit higher degree, where we get products, or at least we get prototypes which can be converted into products, then a different kind of satisfaction comes up. Of course, I know to get that kind of a situation, to get to that kind of a situation, an entire ecosystem is required. So when we look at how faculty at Berkeley and Stanford, how they are not only doing cutting edge research and publishing in high impact factor journals, but they are also doing so much of experimental work, and how that work is getting transferred into products, and how they are setting up their own companies and getting fulfillment of their work. We need to get that kind of a thing going here. It's a long journey, because it's the ecosystem. It's not only one university within its boundaries. We need support from outside. The economy has to be growing. It has to support as I said, the ecosystem. I want a breadboard. Where will I get it from? It's not available in Guwahati. You have to go to Bangalore. Oh, but only 3-layer printed circuit boards are available. Sorry, not breadboard, printed circuit board. Then what happens? Oh, imported from Taiwan. Now, once that happens, you lose heart. So whereas if you were at Stanford, you just call Joe, and Joe will take care of the PCB. And that's what we need. But it's a dream. It's a dream we must strive for. We must work towards. And things are getting easier now, much easier than earlier, because geography is not so important anymore. And physical ecosystem is also not so important anymore, because now we have the internet, we have virtual systems, we can get things online, we can order things from anywhere in the world. And so this is a big opportunity actually to so-called leapfrog, into that Silicon Valley era. So we like to have the Brahmaputra Valley become the next Silicon Valley. And for that, Tezpur University, IIIT Guwahati, NEHU, all of us must work together and create that what your song was talking about, the flow of knowledge and all the rest of the good things. So we must dream of those things, and I think if we do that, we will, if not fully succeed, we'll get there. If not today, maybe the next generation. Okay. One more thing I want to mention about the institute standards, quality. which the successful institutes have is one of diversity. Diversity in student population, diversity in faculty population. If you notice the global ranking systems put a fair amount of emphasis on internationalization of the institute. How many international students are there? How many international faculty are there? And you get points for it. There's a reason for that because it increases diversity. Now in our country, maybe it's not so easy to get foreign students or international faculty, but within the country itself there must be diversity. Okay? So in universities in Assam, obviously there will be a lot of students from Assam, but we must ensure that our admission processes are such that students from outside also come. And there is at least a significant number of students from outside Assam or the Northeast studying in a university like this. And that is happening, I know, and that's what we have to ensure. Similarly, we must not become, insular, inward-looking when it comes to hiring. We must try to avoid hiring our own PhD students for some time. There must be a vacation period for them. You can't join the faculty right after your PhD. Some small things like that ensures diversity, but otherwise, that again, when a university kind of slips, the guide hires his student, and before you know it, the student is also hired. And so there's a grandfather guide also available as a colleague, and that is a dangerous thing. And if it happens once, twice, fine, but it becomes a norm, then the university is on its way down. And so diversity is very, very important, and that is one of the things that ensures the quality is maintained. Of course, as these are jobs, ours is a poor country, and one of the things we have to admit, we have to handle properly is jobs at the lower level. We must ensure goes to the local people, because there the poverty issues are coming in. But not at the faculty level and not at the student admission level. Not saying that everybody should be totally all India level, but there must be enough diversity. That's the point I want to make here. Anyway, so there are lots of things like this to talk about, but I don't want to. I think I have been able to convey my message to some extent. What I have all told is is what we have to remember. We have to keep remembering, because we are doing this. This university is one of the leading ones. It is doing most of the things that I have mentioned, if not all of them. But we have to continue to do that. And as the younger people, I want to tell you that you must ensure that as you go forward, as you become professors, you will remember these things, and you will also carry on these traditions, these points, to ensure that the this institution does not start going down. It has to keep going up. Historically, it's not easy to keep going up, and growth obviously will go down. Because in the beginning, the base is low, growth is high. The growth will taper off, but many institutions start declining. On the other hand, there are institutions that are not declining, and we have to learn from those that are not declining, even though they are 150 years old or 200 years old. Whereas some institutes that are 50 years old are already on the way down. So we have to see what's happening, and I think this kind of stuff I've talked about today are some of the things we must keep in mind while ensuring that our system works properly. And as I said, challenges are there, and I just want to say one small thing that Vice Chancellor has already mentioned, that students and parents talk about placement. Now, placement is something that is not directly in the hands of the university. If we want to play the game, you teach only so that certain companies come and take all your students. That's not the way to do it, right? We want to teach them what needs to be taught. If somebody is giving them a good job, it's good. If people are not, they don't want these students, we can't do much. So we have to teach our students to become independent also, to learn to innovate, to learn to become entrepreneurs, to learn to set up their own companies, to learn to do things their own way. Don't have to depend only on a job. Because some of you will go for research, go for higher studies. Others can become startup culture, innovation culture. All these are mantras now. The central government is pouring on us. But we must listen to them. We must listen to them and we must be able to encourage our students to get this entrepreneurship culture into them. And it is a little difficult because our environment is, the economy is not so strong and it needs a little bit of push. The culture is not there, so to speak. But all of us have to work together in that direction too. I will stop here. I can go on rambling. As you know, teachers, when you start, you stop only after 50 minutes because the class ends after 50. But I don't want to bore you more. I've already taken close to 40, I think. So, thank you very much once again for inviting me, and I'm very glad to have been able to come and say a few words to this institute with whom I have grown up practically, and the institute has grown up and I have grown up together, at least in the last 25 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your motivating speech. Your words of advice and encouragement will definitely help us in improving ourselves and also contribute to the development of the university. Thank you once again, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a violin recital for you, which will be a medley of Assamese and Hindi evergreen melodies. It will be performed by Professor Ramesh Deka and Manzil Gogoi on the violin, Sopan Goswami on the mandolin, K.P. Thakur on the keyboard, and Parthojit Bhoal on the tabla. chairperson of the organizing committee, to give the vote of thanks.
Honorable Chief Guest of the day, Professor Gautam, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor V.K. Jain, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor D.K. Saikia, respected deans, respected head of the departments and centers, registrar, finance officer, all the faculty members and staff, all administrative officers and staff, and my dear students. We have been fortunate to have Professor Gautam Baruah, Director IIIT Guwahati, and former Director IIT Guwahati amongst us. We are pleased to mention here that Professor Gautam Baruah had made invaluable contributions to this university, particularly since the School of Engineering was established in 2006. We sincerely would like to thank him for accepting our invitation. So we are grateful that you have spared time from your busy schedule to grace this occasion. We are extremely grateful for your insightful address. I am thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor and Pro Vice Chancellor for their advice and support. I earnestly thank our Registrar, Finance Officer, and the entire TU administration in general for providing us with all possible logistic support towards organizing this function. I especially acknowledge the unwavering support received from Dean School of Engineering and his office, Horticulture Section, and Engineering Cell. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to express our genuine thanks to all the former students, retired teaching and non-teaching staffs of Tezpur University who had contributed directly or indirectly to the success of Tezpur University. I would like to place on record my sincere thanks to all my organizing committee members for their wholehearted support, without which this function would not have been possible. I am thankful to all the student volunteers who have greatly helped us in organizing this function. I would like to thank the violin recital group for their impressive performance. Last but not least, my heartfelt thanks to all who have contributed directly or indirectly to make this function a success. Thank you all. Jai Hind.